Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. We are live on the True Hill Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for another edition of our Dark Side of the Ring review. This time, we will be reviewing Season 3, Episode 9, The Double Life of Chris Kanyon, covering the life and career and unfortunate passing of one of the most innovative professional wrestlers that has come through in recent years, Chris Kanyon. I am back once again with the beautiful, the lovely princess of all the True Heels, Miss Krssi Love.
What's up? What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Oh, this was another one that I didn't really well dive in. So go ahead.
There's a lot to dive in with, and we know we've been getting a lot of positive feedback for our Dark Side of the Ring reviews, as per usual. One of our more viewed reviews that we do on the channel. So as always, give a thumbs up to this video. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content that we got here. Daily content, and it's another big week. It's Extreme Rules week. We've already done a review for AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, which Krssi Love was live for. Myself, Jimmy Macaram, and Marcus Cash yesterday live on the YouTube channel, so you could check that out after this stream. Blunt Impact from last night with Impact Wrestling post Victory Road, on the road to Bound for Glory. You could check out Chris and Ness on that after this live stream, but a whole bunch of great content coming up the rest of the week. We got later on tonight, Friday Night Warriors number 6, as Romeo, Krssi, and the gang will be a live watch along for SmackDown, as well as AEW Rampage Grand Slam with CM Punk versus Powerhouse Hobbs, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer, Adam Cole and the Young Bucks versus Christian Cage and Jurassic Express. And then we got a big one tomorrow on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, True Hill Heat 144, as myself, Miss Krssi Love, Top Guy JJ are joined by one of our biggest guests yet, 4-time Emmy Award winner Chris Van Vliet, the voice of some of the best wrestling interviews in the game today. He's going to be joining us. We're going to talk about his journey, his trek to becoming one of the biggest names in wrestling media, as well as we're going to discuss the Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega Classic at AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, as well as preview and predictions for Extreme Rules on Sunday. And speaking of Extreme Rules on Sunday, we're going live with our live watch along for WWE Extreme Rules 2021. Romeo will be here, Chris G will be here. There'll be a bunch of folks joining us for the watch along, so don't miss that. And then on Monday, we cap off the week with our pay-per-view roundtable review for WWE Extreme Rules 2021. So it's a great time to become a subscriber to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. And we'll have a major announcement about more ways to check out True Hill Heat content tomorrow on True Hill Heat 144. So such a great time. But we got to get serious. We got to talk about Dark Side of the Ring, Season 3, Episode 9, for the double life of Chris Kanyon. Miss Krssi Love, let's talk about your thoughts. And before watching this episode, what did you know about Chris Kanyon beforehand?
I remember him being the guy that faced Glacier, because I remember that they remind me of like Mortal Kombat. It was like really, really cool. Like he's supposed to be like Sub-Zero. It was like, I mean, the guy that he was supposed to face was like Sub-Zero. And then I remember him being like with Raven. Okay. And that was like, that's it. I don't remember. I can't remember his run when he came to WWE. So I remember him in WCW.
Yes, he had a quite the interesting run with WCW as well as with WWE. Of course, for everyone watching, we want to hear your thoughts on this episode, The Double Life of Chris Kanyon, in the live chat. And of course, if you want to make sure we highlight your comment, your opinion on this episode, your opinion on Chris Kanyon overall, his career, a super chat donation is always appreciated. And it makes sure we highlight your comment, and it helps out the channel a lot, helps us to keep making these live content as well as our regular daily content right here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. So Connor Smith following along in that thought with a super chat donation saying, "Who better than Kanyon? Nobody."
Mm-hmm.
What a catchphrase! What a
Yes, it
catchphrase!
was.
I love that catchphrase. And you, my boy Blue, doing that work, saying, if you check in, please leave a thumbs up and support the channel. Yes, it helps us out quite a lot, and we always appreciate the support here. And then we also got the Wrestling Lowdown Show, who loves our Dark Side of the Ring reviews, always gives us good thoughts in the comment section, in the live chat, saying hello, happy Friday to you. Frantic World, one of our elite good eggs of the True Heel Heat community, saying what's up, SP3, Miss
What's
Krssi, and
up?
chat, what's going on, Frantic? So let's get to it on this episode of Dark Side of the Ring. We do an opening bit that has various talking heads, and Chris Jericho not only is the narrator for this season of Dark Side of the Ring, but he's also a contributor to this episode here.
Yes.
Jericho tells us that Kanyon rose from obscurity and set the style for decades to come. They show Kanyon as Mortis hitting a buckshot lariat, which I thought was crazy. And when you see all the moves that he was doing, it's like,
right.
yeah, legit influence what we see nowadays.
That is true. You're right.
He talks about how he kept being gay a secret, and various talking heads tell us they had no idea. Keeping the fact he was gay hidden became an obsession and led to crazy behavior. Some of the talking heads from the intro were DDP, the Young Bucks, who was a surprise for me, and Father James Mitchell, who of course was his manager in WCW, and they did the intro. This is the double life of Chris Kanyon. We start with a promo from WCW in 1998, just so we can hear what I said was a great catchphrase. Who better than Kanyon? Nobody. But the fans, when he was a heel, used to say everybody.
Yeah.
That leads to the Young Bucks mentioning that you have to have a catchphrase in the 90s, and everyone gives their impression of Kanyon's catchphrase. Krssi, give us your impression of the Who Better catchphrase.
Who better than Kanyon?
Nobody. Yes, there we go. Call and response.
Call and respond. That's it.
We meet Diamond Dallas Page, who talks about his love of working with Kanyon. The Young Bucks are next, as they credit Kanyon with doing the independent wrestling style before anyone else.
Yeah.
They introduced themselves as good friends with Chris, and they loved watching him wrestle when they were teenagers. Next, we meet Raphael Morfif, who is AEW executive, as the show loves their AEW guys on this edition of Dark Side of the Ring.
Well, those are the only talking people that were available, I guess, to like say anything, because they didn't have anyone else to speak about them.
That is a good point. He talks about Raphael talks about that he grew up with Chris in Queens, New York, and even worked with him in WWE. He talks about Chris being a wrestling fan, and then says he doesn't think Chris was ever comfortable with his sexuality because his religious upbringing in school. Chris blurted out to a school chaplain that he was gay, and then got the spiel about not giving in to Satan or temptations. Chris told the guy that that's who he is, and questioned why it was wrong. Raphael wished he knew Chris was going through all of this. Did you have any experience with any friends that battled with their sexuality around when you were younger?
Not really, but I know for sure what religious people would always say. Like, it's a sin. Don't give in to temptations. Don't do these things because God is always watching you. Well, if God is watching me, then who's watching them over there? You know what I'm saying? Like, I've always heard religious people, like whether it's Catholic, Christian, all of them, they all say the same spiel when it's not, not really. Like, God is going to love us regardless. So.
Exactly. And that's what that never made sense to me. Like,
it doesn't.
that's what
right. God is going to love me, and I can always
if
I can always ask for forgiveness, God is always going to love me regardless of what I am or what I'm doing.
Exactly. We got another super chat donation from the Negro Buck, Nick Jackson. Thank you as always, good brother. He joined us on our live watch along of AEW Dynamite Grand Slam with Ness. He says, I need to dive back into some of Canyon's matches. Always
Yeah.
knew he was beloved in and out of the ring. So unfortunate how his life turned out. And I totally agree with that sentiment there. And this whole episode really taught you to check in with those
your friend, yeah.
around you, with your friends, especially those battling with mental health, as we'll get into on this edition of Dark Side of the Ring. CM Chris, one of the elite good eggs from the Wrestling Daily community, always tells me good things about our Dark Side of the Ring reviews. So thank you for joining us, saying hello, SP3 and Miss Krssi Love. Frantic World saying, I just watched the episode. It was a sad one, definitely. Brady Allen Corley says, you nailed it. You nailed it, bro. And then he also says, who was the manager of Kanyon? I guess that was James Vanderbeek. Father James Mitchell, which brings us into the next talking head. That was Father James Mitchell. And he talks about meeting Kanyon, Chris, and how he gave off this very New York persona with a Catholic upbringing that hated homosexuals. Mitchell goes through his various characters in Smoky Mountain Wrestling and WCW. Kanyon gave James a tape of what he could do as far as wrestling, and James wanted to get him trained, and the only place he knew was with Fabulous Moolah. Kanyon marked out at getting the chance, and Mitchell had to bullshit Moolah to get her to train a man, because she was traditionally training women at this time. She was impressed with him, and then would book him on shows where Mae Young would beat the crap out of him. He said that he said James said that Chris would tell him, what's going on? This bitch is crazy. She's shooting on me.
She probably wanted to get with him, but he probably just didn't, let it go that way. But anyhow, because she was a very horny old lady. But go ahead.
That's the way she flirted.
Exactly. That was her love language.
Mitchell told him to relax and he would be okay. Kanyon eventually gets the call to join WCW and is an enhancement talent in a team called Men at Work. We cut to Chris Jericho, who kind of tells the story of first meeting Kanyon when he was a part of that tag team. He says that he talks about how Kanyon's accent and his lips, which made him nervous to do promos. For Kanyon, though, he was getting to live his dream and he was really happy. Mitchell tells the story of how Chris came out to him. It involved Kanyon moving and getting help from his cousins, and a box full of gay pornography spilled out. Kanyon freaked and said the porno belonged to Mitchell and he was playing a rib. He asked Mitchell to call his cousins and play along, and that is when Mitchell was trusted with keeping Chris's secret. How do you let that kind of shows like the relationship between Chris and James, that he would be the one that came out to him? What did you think to that?
I thought it just shows that Chris who he trusted, and he didn't really trust much people with that information right away. So it just shows the relationship that this person showed him how to wrestle. He's like took him underneath his wing and guided him. So he was he felt really comfortable for him to really know, and he made him write the whole script to tell the cousins or whatever.
Exactly, wrote a whole script for him to just make it look good for his cousin, make it look real, shoot, don't sell it. We got Ty William saying, I love the episode of The Double Life of Chris Kanyon.
Yes,
however, I
really
cried on that episode as well. Chris Kanyon was so loved but so sad because of his homosexuality, and also he was bullied by WWE people.
God, yes, we will get into Yep, go ahead.
We will definitely get into it. Connor Smith saying, this is the third episode I've had to pause it and take a break before I kept watching. I definitely understand that.
It was going and it went fast. At one point I was like, wait, whoa, let me pause this 1 second, because I'm missing stuff, and it was moving really, really quickly.
For sure. We also got the Wrestling Lowdown saying his wrestling reminds me of a bigger Shawn Michaels wrestling wise. And Frantic World says Krssi is right. That's why I don't judge people. Absolutely. You can't. You can, especially because, some religious people are a little bit too into
religious.
religion.
Yes.
Yeah. And they try to follow it scripture by scripture when the scripture is under your own interpretation. So when you try to force it upon other people, your interpretation, that's not what the scripture is really saying in my eyes. That this is coming from someone that went to Catholic school for much of his life here.
Right. Same. Same. So I get it.
We got Brady Allen Corley saying Moolah was a racist piece of shit.
Well,
I can't say you're
but
wrong.
That's just like me talking about Tessa Blanchard. But come on now.
This is true. This is true. Ty Williams saying there are a lot of people also wrestlers who just like Chris Kanyon today. Yes,
that's also true. You're right.
That's how he came across in this documentary here. Next, we talk about Glacier and the blood runs cold vignettes. He was much hyped. If you don't know who Glacier was, we're actually watching True Rewind right now when they're doing the blood runs cold vignettes.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we're about to see the introduction of Glacier. He was much hype. He had vignettes running basically forever before he debuted, and he was based on the Mortal Kombat character Sub-Zero. And then Kanyon returned as his mortal enemy named Mortis. DDP calls the Mortis mask the coolest mask in the history of wrestling. I thought that and I like the Dark Side of the Ring people kind of put like Mortal Kombat music to when they were talking about this as like a knockoff theme to Mortal Kombat. That was a nice little touch. Kanyon one time was driving back to Atlanta, and Kanyon went off on James Mitchell. This is another James Mitchell story, which you will get a lot of these during the episode.
He's good. You know who's my MVP of the story.
Kanyon kicked the passenger door open and started kicking out headlights, brake lights, and anything he could. He fired Mitchell and told him, if I didn't have a lips, I wouldn't even need you. It's only because I can't do promos. I would try to do it in the New York accent, but I've been told by people I already have a New York accent, so that was it. Mitchell took it in stride. But he also thought that's a hell of a thing to say to someone who knows your secret identity. I thought that was a great line there. What did you think about this whole story with Kanyon kind of going crazy on James Mitchell at that point?
Kind of like sad because I guess they didn't know how to categorize his behavior and just being erratic and just acting like not himself. And then, it just shows like, you got to always like check on people because you never know what they're going through. And he didn't really know what it was called back then anyway. And it was like very like, mental health was like very like you didn't even speak about it at all. We didn't even really know how to like categorize it, to be honest, back then. So for them to, for him to go through those things, it just shows that he's going with this person that, that knows all his information that you trust so much. So it's like the person that's on the receiving end is just like, whoa, like what's happening? Like, why are you doing this to me? And like you said, I know your secrets, but I don't think he would ever said anything though.
No, you can kind of tell throughout this whole piece that, Mitchell, despite all that he went through, and it's a whole lot.
It's a bunch of stories.
We're definitely going to get into the other stories that he tells that he kind of understood that something was going on. But like you said, at that time, there wasn't any like definitions or like prognosis on in that regard. So it was kind of tough for even him being someone so close to Kanyon, and he tried to kind of be, understanding through a lot of it, but it kind of caught him off guard, a lot of the stuff that went on between the two men there. So we then go into Kanyon becomes more paranoid with his colleagues finding out he was gay. As the Young Bucks tell us that if you were gay back then, you became the heel. And the guy that would wear thongs and have their tights pulled down on sunset flips. They show pictures of like guys like Adrian Adonis and Billy Gunn, the Goldust character. Then they show this happening to Billy and Chuck in WWE. Jericho mentioned mentions back in those days, it wasn't accepted as it is now, and they show
Yeah.
more WWE footage of stereotypes, including Goldust feeling up Razor Ramon. What did you think about those type of characters? Like, were you like, I know younger you kind of talking about that. Like, what did you think about those type of characters like Billy and Chuck, Goldust, and whatnot?
Uh, Billy and Chuck, I just thought that the guys are just being guys, and they just pulled the guys' pants down just to be funny so that they could get a crowd reaction. The Gold Dust stuff, I think I was too young to really understand what it was when I did when he was like the Gold Dust character, the
Yeah.
like with Razor Ramon, like when he was like legit like. When he first came out, he had the thing with Razor and with Marlena and all that. Like that was all like very like, and then like my parents didn't really, my mother didn't say anything to me either. So I don't even know if she knew what we was watching. To be honest, I couldn't really say. But as I grew older and understood what it was, I mean, I thought that was just the character, and I just he's playing this role. So I didn't really like think anything of it, to be honest.
Yes. Got a couple more
You?
comments. Yeah, for me, I mean, I was of the like Eminem generation, which
Oh,
yeah, it wasn't
yeah.
too good with a lot of the things that I thought or said about people that were different from me. I mean, I was only
Mhm,
influenced by the things that I watched and that I liked, and like I said, I was a
mhm.
big fan of Eminem. So
And he was
look,
very like, yeah.
yes, very homophobic,
Yeah.
for sure. Back when I was younger, and I can look back on some of the things that I thought and said, and just be
Mhm.
ashamed of myself. But you
Yeah.
learn and you grow as a person, and you know
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that's not the right way to think about people that are different from you.
Mhm,
We
mhm.
got a couple of comments here about some of the stuff we talked about already. Connor saying maybe like you can pull my hair out later, big guy.
That was a
uh,
good one too. That he said there's a little pieces, 3 little strands he had on his head at the time.
exactly. The wrestling lowdown saying his paranoia reminded me of the J Abrams episode. It's all in his head. No one was condemning him from C, but it was mostly in his head.
Yeah, that sounds
That's
very
actually a
true.
good point.
Yeah.
Brady Allen Corley saying this series of Dark Side is really good.
Mhm.
Absolutely, definitely agree with you there. Nick Jackson saying, yeah, that's a big reason why I never got into religion, and I'm glad my mom never made a big deal about it and taught me to love and accept people for who they are.
Mhm.
Absolutely, that's a great way to think about it.
Very great,
Brady
yes.
Allen Corley saying James Mitchell was awesome, laughing about Eminem and saying Eminem is crazy, but I love his music. Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel the same way. And Ty Williams saying Kenny Omega, who was rumors to be bisexual, he said that WWE doesn't book openly gay wrestlers as serious as the heterosexual wrestlers, and I agree with him on that quote.
That is a fact.
100%.
That is a
Yeah,
fact, yes. That is definitely a fact for sure, which
we
is very
never
sad.
we never would have got a story like the Golden Lovers in WWE. Never would we have gotten that, where it's like ambiguous about them and their sexuality, but
Right.
they
Yep.
they never make it about that. It's about the love that they have and appreciation that they have for each other. So yeah, it's very true comment there. Next we have Brian Cage, the AEW star, and he introduces himself as a friend, and unofficial trainee of Kanyon. Mitchell
Mhm.
talks about a metal box that Kanyon would carry around that had information on all of his boyfriends. It seems he would spend days trolling for men online and print out all the conversations they had. He became paranoid about the box, and Mitchell asked him why he would bring it with him if he was
Yeah.
worried about people finding out. He then wondered if Kanyon was hoping they would find out the same way he did with the gay porn falling out of the box on the
Mm.
U-Haul, which is an interesting take right there.
Yeah.
Uh, DDP talks about the Mortis character and how Kanyon was able to hide behind the mask. Little did he know that Kanyon was hiding behind a different type of mask in real life.
Yeah.
Then DDP gets all serious as he tells us the NWO, he said Mortis was going good, and then the NWO happened. He says, we see Hogan dropping the leg on Savage and cutting his promo. Apparently, Kanyon looked at DDP and told him their push was dead. Again, Mortis, did come after the NWO, but I can understand him, when the NWO was up and running and really cutting his stride. I can understand why he would say that to DDP. And honestly, the NWO kind of set off DDP's push. So Kanyon wasn't 100% right with that. It cut off his push, not DDP. It kind of set it forward, honestly.
That is very true.
Mitchell says all of the gimmick stuff went out the window with the NWO, and that stressed out Kanyon, who lashed out at him. Apparently, Kanyon choked out Mitchell one night to the point Mitchell blacked out. Kanyon then quickly apologized, and Mitchell went into detail of how he had his thumbs on his throat and made him almost pass out. And then when he realized what he was doing, he came to Mitchell and kissed him on the forehead. What did you think about this part of the story, as well as the stuff with NWO kind of making gimmicks like Mortis and Glacier obsolete?
Well, the story in reference to him being choked out just shows you another thing that he just blacked out and just was going to these rants or these tyrants, and he just didn't know what was happening. So I understand why he was so afraid and scared, and it just shows you another again, they didn't know what it was until later on. Yeah. And even he didn't even know what was happening to him, because he would wake up and didn't remember anything. So I'm surprised he didn't try to find a doctor or seek some type of help, but he just just kept going on through. Well, they didn't really specify, to be honest. And then the whole gimmick being squashed, like you said, it just happened to show his push just got put aside because they didn't want that gimmick. They were more so into the NWO. The time was changing for everyone. TV with more reality shows were coming out. So I guess they were trying to base wrestling off what people were seeing already and products to make it more realistic per se.
Yeah, that's definitely how it was back in those days. It became more of the reality base where, you had Razor Ramon and Diesel coming over, but they're known by their real names, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, right? And just that guerrilla type of style became the popular thing in WCW and wrestling overall, which segued into the Attitude Era over on WWF. Yeah. So apparently, according to the story, like we were saying, NWO killed the Morris character, so he was giving a new role. He popped up during DDP's cage match with Raven at Slamboree in 1998, and unmasked took off the Mortis mask and became Kanyon. DDP says Bischoff had a lot of confidence in Kanyon and sent him to handle all the movie stuff in the movie Ready to Rumble. And I totally agree with the Young Bucks here when they call it the greatest wrestling movie of all time. I will stand and die on the hill. The wrestler is great. The wrestler is fantastic. I think it's a great one-man performance.
No, I don't think the wrestler was... Well, I mean, it was good, but I don't think it's good as Ready to Rumble, though.
I think Ready to Rumble is just the fun of wrestling, where the wrestler is more of the serious side of what
that's
happened.
Serious sides of what happens to wrestlers. Yes,
if you just want fun, a wrestling-based story in a movie, that's Ready to Rumble. That's why I enjoy Ready to Rumble, and I agree, it's the greatest wrestling movie of all time. Let us know in the comments what you think. What's your favorite wrestling movie of all time? Kanyon taught David Arquette how to wrestle and was the stunt double in the movie for Oliver Platt, who played Jimmy King. What would Jimmy King do? Of course, great quote right there. It was Kanyon's idea to use the triple cage from Ready to Rumble in WCW.
Wow, and look at that. That's crazy. I was sitting there, I was like, what? And they don't even give him his flowers, son. That's trash, yo.
Innovative in more ways than one. They showed the bump he took off of the second cage through the entrance ramp at the pay-per-view when they first did the triple cage match. The triple cage was DDP versus Jeff Jarrett versus David Arquette for the WCW Heavyweight Championship. They briefly touch on Positively Kanyon, and then Jericho mentions how well the boys were paid in WCW. He said that he went from making a couple of $100 a
week and
week
something.
to
Yeah.
making like 300 grand. That leads to Chris
Wow.
turning his home into a party central with women all over the place. But the women picked up on the fact that Kanyon might be gay. His paranoia kicks in, and he wants Mitchell to make a porno that he can show the boys as proof that he was straight.
I think he
Apparently,
kind of forgot, like if he's having these parties and he's supposed to be this person, I think he kind of like turned it off and was like being his real self and was not like thinking, oh yeah, maybe I should engage with these women a little bit more if I keep having these parties. I think I really like he just wanted to have people over. I couldn't even answer. I was like, well, if he probably just forgot to turn the character back on. It had to be.
exactly. He was just basically they were saying he was like ignoring the ladies that were all over him at the party, so that made them tipped off. And
The
one
girl,
of the
yeah.
one of the girls told James Mitchell, and that's why he came up with the idea for the porno.
That
Apparently
he
he
didn't show
wrote
up for.
apparently he wrote a script and had Mitchell find a whore. He didn't want you to find a whore, and but Kanyon never showed. Mitchell let nature take its course, as he said. I love the way Mitchell said that. I let nature take its course, and they followed the script, and the girl was wearing the mortis mask. He said that he came to a hotel and watched it with Kanyon the next morning, and then Kanyon flipped out on him and accused Mitchell of using his hair conditioner. Mitchell pointed out he was bald. He was basically bald. But he could see Kanyon was getting back into that dark place that led him to choking him out briefly. Kanyon pushed Mitchell across the room, but this time Mitchell was ready and grabs a pistol that he had under the pillow, being prepared after the last time he got choked out. Kanyon pulls him by the hair, by the 3 strands of hair he has on the top of his head, and they had a standoff. Mitchell then realized it was out of control, though. He admits he was ready to shoot him if needed, and he checked all the laws to make sure he was in the clear for self-defense.
I don't think that man was going to shoot him. I really don't.
The producers asked him numerous times, "You
Are you
really
sure?
gonna shoot him?
You right?
You
he
think that
probably
was
had
just
the gun,
working?
but I think he was working them down. Yeah, like to make him stop. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, relax, chill. I'll shoot. Like, I'll blow your head. Like, yeah, I don't think he would have shot him though.
I think he was working. I think he was working.
Yeah,
there.
I think he was working them.
We got Connor Smith saying we couldn't even get a Jake Atlas push in 2021. That's a good point. And shouts out to Jake Atlas, who's decided to retire from the wrestling business for the time being. Well, take some time away from the business due to his mental health. And like you said, like this is kind of, we hope that he's taking care of himself, because mental health is a serious thing that we have to take serious, and he's doing that by taking the time away. Frantic World says the NWO stopped everybody push in WCW except for DDP. DDP. I feel like DDP he was ahead of the curve there. We also got Ty Williams saying, I think why most wrestlers are coming up as bisexual because they are afraid of being seen as gay, because they are still homophobic within the wrestling business. I think there's more people that are just coming out as gay. I think there's more that are just come out as gay than bisexual, actually, in my opinion. From what I hear from most of the people in the business and people that do interviews, that's how it kind of seems, in my opinion. Brady Allen Corley saying Hogan did the best promos, was heinous to turn heel. Yes, they show highlights of the NWO original promo there. Nick Jackson saying living with a secret like that for so long and feeling like everyone got love will hate you, that you love will hate you if you tell them the truth is a different type of hell. Wouldn't wish that on anyone. I 100% agree with you there. It's really troubling to even like hear about that, because how much of a burden that must have been on him.
Yeah.
We got CM Chris saying Raven tweeted that he wasn't contacted regarding this episode as he was with Kanyon a lot in WCW. That was a very big surprise that Raven wasn't a part of this.
Me too. I said the same thing, because once he took the mask off, he was with Raven. So I didn't understand why they didn't get in contact with him. And I'm happy that Raven did just speak out and said, no one called me. and got my point of view on this. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm sure he had something to add to the story as well, because he was there. And it showed how his confidence built when he became this person. So I don't know what happened, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a misstep by the Dark
Yeah,
Side of
they've
the
dropped the
Ring
ball on that
community.
part. Yeah.
We got Frantic World saying Ready to Rumble is the greatest wrestling movie ever. See, someone agrees with me. CM Chris saying he tweeted, for those who are wondering, I was not contacted to be part of Canyon's Dark Side of the Ring episode. Yeah, I'm as puzzled as anyone else. Why not? Our friendship had he says, our friendship had a lot of depth to it. And I feel like I would have had quite a bit to contribute
Yeah.
unique to my perspective. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I said, it's a
I
big
agree.
misstep.
Yeah. That was one part of the episode I was wondering. I'm like, because when that character was out, he was with him, and yeah, DDP and all these other guys are his friends, but like I was on the road with him. Like I'm sure they traveled together and did things. So I don't know.
Yes. Frantic World talking about the gun standoff was that part of the episode was funny. It was a little humorous there to go along with a lot of the sadness that we would get to. We also got Ty Williams saying Chris Kanyon helped training Daphne when she was in WCW. Someone else who's dealt with a lot of her own yeah. So it's sad. It's very, very, very sad. And yeah, you just never want to hear anyone dealing with like mental health in that way, because it's something that is really hard to deal with and understand, even especially when you're dealing with it yourself. But continue putting those comments in the live chat. We love you guys contributing to the conversation on this episode here. And of course, super chat donations will make sure we highlight your comment, your opinion on this episode of Dark Side of the Ring, the double life of Chris Kanyon. And remember to drop a thumbs up on this video as well. We go to Chris Champagne as he gets reinvented again. And then WCW goes under and gets brought out by Vince McMahon in 2001. They were fans of Kanyon, and he was a double champion in short order, becoming the United States champion and tag team champion with DDP. DDP felt Kanyon was going to have a real chance to shine in the WWE. Mitchell says that he would get invited by Chris to come and visit. Chris would spend 2 to 3 days sitting on the floor, moving papers around, and would tell Mitchell he was doing taxes. They weren't taxes, though, and instead were notices from the IRS. He would stay in bed for 6 to 7 days after he invited Mitchell to come and stay, and Mitchell would just sit in his house doing nothing. And Mitchell didn't understand depression and didn't understand what Kanyon had to be depressed about. What would you be thinking if your friend is, so successful on television on the biggest part of his career, and he's like dealing with depression in that way?
Try to like speak to them and like have them like open up and see what's happening. And if not, then let's go try to get you. Like I would have pleaded with my friend and like, let's go get you to talk to someone. Maybe you need a therapist. Maybe you need some type of like the medication. Who knows? Like something that'll help you get out of this funk. Because why are you sitting in this room for like days? Why are you not getting out of your bed? Things of that nature is like we have to try to find you a way to like make you better or whatever, get you happy.
It's true. Kanyon injured his shoulder and was worried about his spot in WWE, so he took steroids to try and heal faster. But he actually got an infection, a blood infection, because of that. And that was one of the few times Mitchell ever knew of Kanyon taking steroids. He spent 18 months recovering from this injury while also battling with depression. He was set to make his return on SmackDown in 2003. And Raphael talks about Kanyon told him he was returning with a big role. Apparently, Taker was high on Chris and thought he could help. Paul Heyman is presenting Taker with a gift inside of a large wooden box, and the Young Bucks tell us that the event took place in Southern California, and they would go to all the shows out there. And Kanyon was directed to come out of the box dressed as Boy George and sing with a lisp. The Bucks popped for Kanyon in the crowd, but then he got destroyed by Taker. Why did they bring Kanyon out just to kill him like that? One of the Young Bucks said. They then criticized the chair shot to the head. That was a vicious chair shot.
Yes.
That was like sickening. And Jericho says dumps on it as well, and he knows it was a bullying WWE trick. Raphael doesn't blame the WWE, as he doesn't buy they would have someone train that long just to bury them. To him, it just didn't work out creatively. What do you think, Miss Krssi Love? Was this a little bit of bullying that WWE might have found out that he was gay, he was a openly gay wrestler, or do you think that it was more something that they thought creatively would work and just didn't?
Could be a little bit of both, but I don't know what would be the point of him being dressed as Boy George. Like, what would that do? So more so probably like I believe the bullying part, and this is not the first time we've heard about this before. Yeah. So I'm leaning more towards the bullying part, which is very, very sad and just makes like it's very sickening, to be honest, because it's like, why are you bothering someone that feels this way and know that they are gay? Like, it doesn't make any it doesn't even make any sense for your brand. If anything, it'll make your brand better if you had this person out openly, and especially back then, a lot of people were coming out openly gay. So it was more so where it's becoming like America's now opening their eyes to seeing what's happening with people and them coming out. So for them, they definitely dropped the ball, and it's very disappointing to hear about them when they're bullying people because of their sexual orientation. Like it's sickening.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle. I would think that maybe it wasn't directly a bullying thing, but I feel like someone did find out that he was gay, and that's why they came up with the Boy George idea, because it didn't make sense to where he was before that, to to just go from that to Boy George. It just it didn't make a whole lot of sense. He was a
champion. Like he was like, he got injured and he was a champion. Like he had a little push. Like he was a mid-card guy. Like he was really, he was good. So for you guys to like then backpedal and do something like 360 and just turn it like something else is really like, what was the intent on this?
It's a very weird scenario there. Jericho brings up that once you get slotted in a spot in WWE, it is hard to get out of it. They eventually release Kanyon. Mitchell says Kanyon told him he was being punished by WWE for being gay, but then admitted that wasn't true and he was using it as an excuse in case he felt the need to sue them. It got to the point that Mitchell thought of Kanyon as an unreliable narrator, as he didn't know what to believe from him. Kanyon starts to mentor new wrestling stars after his release. The Young Bucks call Kanyon a hero, and they hit it off with him immediately when they were booked on a show together. Brian Cage also had a show, and Kanyon told him he would show up and heel on the crowd. Kanyon told Cage that it was his promotion and his town, so he needed to go over. We actually got great footage of them going at it, and man, Cage was a small, chubby dude back then. I was like, my oh my, how big your arms are, Grandma. Like sheesh. Cage.
Yes, two different people for sure.
It looked like the new Cage ate that cage and then made it into muscle. Cage calls it.
It did, yes, it did.
Calls it one of the top 3 to 5 moments in his life. They have footage from the show, and Kanyon even puts Cage over after the match, saying that you are better than Kanyon. I thought that was a nice little touch there, and you could see a lot when we would see footage later how much Kanyon influenced Brian Cage. Nearly 40 minutes into the show, and we get a new talking head into this. Luke Haas, with a pro wrestler. He was friends with Chris and shows the Mortis tattoo on his forearm. That's how you know he's a loyal friend. And he tells us why they had that friendship. Chris told Luke that he could live with him at no charge after his house was wrecked during Hurricane Katrina when he lived in Louisiana. Luke then goes off into a Scientology story, as Kanyon thought he saw aliens aliens and needed to break into Scientology building to prove it. Luke and his friends knew that he was off because he had been in the house the entire time and none of that actually happened, and they needed to hold him down. And by morning, he doesn't even remember what happened after he got some sleep, and he ended up getting treated and being diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Have you ever experienced anyone in your life, friend or family, with bipolar disorder?
Yes, I have several family members that have bipolar disorder. So, no, we know what it is, of course, nowadays. But,
Yeah.
back then when I was younger, I didn't know what it was.
It's tough. It's tough to deal with. I've had friends in the past that have dealt with it, and especially when they're not on any medication, it's very tough to deal with. So for so long, it sounds like Chris Kanyon was dealing with it without even knowing that he was. That's even crazier. We get Connor Smith saying, I can't blame James Mitchell for not getting him help. Back then, it wasn't as accessible as it is now, which is no excuse. I really think Mitchell had Canyon's best interest in mind and wanted to help. Yeah.
Definitely agree with you on that one.
We got Frantic World saying WWE had a really great wrestler, but didn't know what to do with him, and that chair shot was nasty too. Do you think that Taker had orders to kind of make it a little bit more stiff with the beatdown that he gave him?
Probably so. Like, go out there and kick his ass, give it to him real good, like serve him. Even though he was like, had liked the kid, I guess I don't know why he gave him such a ass kicking, but I guess that was the orders, and he's a Vince guy, so Vince say this, that's what you gotta do, and he's always done it.
Yes, he's always been a very good company man, a very good soldier, the Undertaker, and that's why I hate his guts. Connor Smith, they wouldn't train someone for a year and a half and bury them, ? They bury people in NXT who trained for 3 years. Great point there.
You know what? Okay.
Can't say he's wrong.
He's not. He's definitely not, for sure.
Ty Williams saying John Cena was rumors bullied Chris and stole his ideas. We will get to John Cena and his contribution in this story here very shortly. Nick Jackson says this had to be bullying, dude. Why else would they tell Taker to kick the shit out of him the way he did? Raphael needs to pull his head out of his ass. I think that Raphael at that time was a part of the WWE management team.
So he didn't really.
He has a different perspective. To be fair to him.
Yeah.
We got Brady Allen Corley saying, I'm a big WWE fan, but not a fan of Vince. He says Vince is a power maniac. That's saying it. Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's the short end.
Yeah.
The Wrestling Lowdown show says, I don't think Taker was burying him in that segment. To me, it looks like Taker was just doing his job. And I think his job was to beat the shit out of Kanyon, which
he did.
And Ty Williams saying the Undertaker is a homophobia back in the 90 era. I mean, I don't know I can see it. Yeah.
I can definitely believe it. I wouldn't put it past him.
This is the same guy who was rocking a Blue Lives Matter shirt, which are in his whole documentary. So, truly hero Romeo saying the Alliance MVP. Never forget. Yes, he had the shirt and everything. He had
several shirts on. He had several of them on. Every time we had a new episode, it was a tank top, or it was a t-shirt, it was a sweatshirt. He reps them hard.
Reps it. We got you, my boy Blue, saying you never know what somebody has going on. A little compassion goes a long way. It's crazy how someone so universally loved and respected could be in such a dark place. But yeah, you never know what's going on through somebody's head. You need to talk to them. And Brady Allen Corley saying, I had a friend who was bipolar. He got off his meds and tried to attack me, but I didn't fight back. Thank you for sharing that, because those are real situations
Yeah.
that you go through, and you kind of understand Father James Mitchell's perspective in that regards. But then we go back to our story here. Kanyon then came to terms with his sexuality after his release from WWE. The various talking heads discussed when he came out to them. Luke just told him okay, and Kanyon was shocked that Luke didn't hate him. He said, "Why would I hate you?" Cage admits that he was bummed out about it at first, but realized that if it didn't matter, it didn't change anything, and it
Right.
didn't matter. It opened his eyes to become more tolerant. In 1 minute, he went from "oh man" to "who cares." DDP says they were all happy for him. Mitchell says Kanyon discussed on and off about being an openly gay wrestler, as he felt he could be a role model. He came out to the world at an indie show in a match against DDP. After the match, DDP asks him if he is gay, and Kanyon says the rumors are true and he is the first openly gay athlete in the country. DDP tells him he will always be his brother, and they hug. I thought that was a great moment. I wish that would have got more mainstream attention and shine when it happened. We then move on to now Orlando Jordan was in WWE, and he was going to come out as gay, which is kind of ironic because we did see footage of early on in Orlando Jordan's career him getting a victory over Chris Kanyon earlier in the episode. But this whole idea ticked off Kanyon, as he felt they were stealing his gimmick. Mitchell points out to Kanyon that it wasn't a gimmick, and he can't own being gay. That was a great line by Mitchell. Mitchell keeps it real with them.
Yeah, Mitchell yeah.
He also didn't bring it up to the WWE previously. He then wrote a letter to Stephanie McMahon asking to be the one in that spot, as he felt he could be a role model. She responded by telling Chris she was sorry to hear of his struggles and didn't know he was going through all the things he mentioned, but she needed to speak with legal about anything else, and that was about it. He never got a response after that, which is prototypical WWE. Not surprising.
Yep. Facts. Not surprised that she was the person that responded to him in the first place. I'm surprised it wasn't Bruce or I'm surprised it wasn't Bruce or someone else, but Paul, or Shane or somebody, because they all, executives, and they all be in the back writing or whatever. But they made Stephanie respond to him and then nothing else. So
exactly. We go back a bit to WrestleMania 20, and Raphael was WWE's MSG promoter, and in the ring is Benoit and Eddie. As the show was a few minutes off air, Kanyon jumped into the ring and started posing on the ropes. The WWE invited Kanyon to the after party.
I wish they had footage of that now.
I
wanted to see that, and I was like, they have to reenact it. No, I want to see the footage. They probably got footage, they just can't get it.
WWE ain't giving that up. Kanyon confronts Vince McMahon at the party, and he says, "Thanks for inviting me to this party, even though you fired me." Nobody really defends his actions, as they don't know what was going through his head at the time. But Jericho mentions you could see this wasn't good, and it made him taboo to work with. Another story from the Young Bucks, as he called one of them, he called Matt Jackson and told him he had enough and was going to kill himself. He was on the phone with Chris for 40 minutes. He had a shower running and all the steam was building up, and he was doing everything he could to talk him down. They prayed,
crying and everything.
Yeah, he was bawling out, crying. They prayed together, and it saved Chris for the time being there. Like, I thought this was really fascinating to find out how close he was with the Young Bucks and so early in their career. And then when you look at a lot of the Young Bucks work, you could see the influence of Chris Kanyon. What did you think about their relationship?
I was, as we are speaking, and I was wondering like how they're such big talking heads in this documentary. And then once they talked about, him calling them, or him calling Matt and, telling him that he wanted to like kill himself and things like that, just shows the dynamic of their relationship. And he he taught them to make them better. That's why you see most of their moves are just like him. So it's really, right. Yeah. Sorry. I'm like, what is happening outside? But it just shows like, the dynamics of like the relationship, and another person that he really trusted, that he even called him, I guess, like to like try to like he stopped him that at that point, but just shows like the trust that he had for them, and the love.
Absolutely. In 2006, we move on to Kanyon gets called to appear on the Howard Stern show and
You can
becomes a
never go on the
regular.
Howard Stern show and be something good. Jesus, go ahead. I'm
It's
sorry.
never a good thing there.
Anyone that always go on that show is something always wind up happening to them, and then they be like regulars on the show. I never watched the show, first of all, but I always heard about it, and it's like it'd be the same thing with the same people. They keep going back all the time. They're all mostly dead. Except Howard.
This is what we talked about with the China documentary too. Yeah. Kanyon takes shots at the WWE and says he was fired for being gay. Stern brings this up to John Cena a few weeks later, and he says that Chris came out of the closet after he was fired from WWE, and the truth is Chris wasn't any good. Cage says that it was a dirtbag thing to say, and Cena was in a higher place than Chris, and anything he said would stomp out anything Kanyon said, even if he had any truth in what he said. I thought that was a great point by Cage. And what did you think about younger John Cena from 15 years ago saying these things?
Very disappointing to hear. I was like, oh, he was one of those fuckboys that was probably bullying him, or was probably back there making fun of him, or like told on him maybe, or something like. And he just like, you don't do those. You don't say, oh, he wasn't good. Like, maybe he was good. He just gave him a bullshit person to be, or the product, whatever they had for him to do, it just didn't pan out. Like, you don't do those type of things to people. It's really sad. I was really disappointed to hear that from John Cena. But of course, that's one of the big guys, so he's always going to be fine.
Another company man.
You don't remember where you came from, friend, with the spiky hair and the tight little baby shorts you had on.
And from one guy saying dirtbag things, who's actually a good person, to another person who seems like he is getting dragged every week on this show, Ric Flair calls into the Howard Stern show to speak to Kanyon. Cage tells us that Kanyon loved Ric Flair, and Flair says that John made a good point, and he is disappointed in Chris. You can see Kanyon breaking at hearing these words, and he shoots back again about wanting to come out and WWE firing him, and Flair just lays it out and says Canyon's time has come and gone. He isn't good enough to be on the show right now. Cage says that Kanyon didn't want to admit that hearing it from Flair affected him, but you saw it all in his face. What did you think about this part?
Again, a person that, and I'm not sure if Rick knew how much Kanyon loved him and adored him, because if that person, I think if Rick probably knew that, he probably wouldn't have said those words, but you could just see his, like, it's like he wanted to crawl up underneath. He was cringing. Like, he wanted to crawl up underneath that chair and just like, okay, can we just make this be over now? Like, just like, stop talking, please. You're just making this worse now. You're making it worse.
That was a tough watch to see Kanyon's reaction to that. Connor Smith saying, in 2 weeks, I've lost complete respect for Ric Flair, Tommy Dreamer, Undertaker, and John Cena. Time flies. Great comment there. Nick Jackson saying Kanyon would wrestle literal circles around John Cena, and that's I gotta say about it. Ty Williams saying Ric Flair broke Chris Kanyon. Yes, probably, for sure.
Most likely did. Yes, he probably contributed to it. Yep.
Brady Allen Corley saying, I battle depression every day, but you have to make it through, and the next day is better. Brady, we appreciate you being so honest in the live chat and sharing with us. And you got a whole community of wrestling fans that love wrestling, that are here with True Hill Heat, that are here to support you, brother. So thank you for sharing that with us. Romeo saying, the saddest part of the episode when Kanyon thought his closest friends would hate him for coming out. I liked Cage's honesty when he said his initial reaction. I definitely agree with you there. Connor Smith saying that email to Stephanie was a cry for help, and they let him down. Yes. 100% agree with you there. Nick Jackson saying, I never knew about Kanyon doing that at the end of Mania 20. I don't think a lot of fans did not know about that at all. Ty Williams saying, I'm a Chris Kanyon fan because he got so much charisma than other wrestlers in wrestling. As for Orlando, he is bisexual, and I understand why Chris was upset because he wants to be positive for gay people. So yeah, you can understand that, bisexual and being gay is a little bit different. So you can understand why he was kind of offended by, Orlando Jordan kind of taking the shine away from him. We got Nick Jackson saying, I read about Matt talking Kanyon off the ledge in their book, and they loved Kanyon so much it was really emotional to read about. Frantic World says, I have no respect for John Cena. He didn't have to say that about Chris. Totally agree with you there.
Agree.
We got Connor Smith saying, funny coming from Cena, who couldn't wrestle a bag of milk when he started.
That's what I said. Don't forget where you came from, friend, because you was not good right away.
And Frantic World saying, Ric Flair needs to stay off Twitter. Actually, Ric Flair was on Twitter before Dark Side of the Ring dropped. And he tried to play a little bit of service control of what was going to be said during this Dark Side of the Ring episode. And it wasn't. It didn't make anything he said better to take in. It didn't. It didn't turn out very well for Rick, and he immediately deleted the tweet. But basically, he was saying that he didn't know he would have that effect on Chris Kanyon. But Ric Flair, in the position that you're in, you should have known.
You should have. That's it.
It is what it is. It is what it is. We are up to 2010 now, as James Mitchell talks about the last time he saw Kanyon, and it was at a show against Mikey Whipwreck, and it was awful, he says, the match. The fans were laughing at him, and he said it's never good.
So sad. That's so sad. It's another sad part.
He said it's never good when they start laughing at you instead of with you.
Yeah.
They went to the bar after the show, and Kanyon was making self-deprecating gay jokes, so people are laughing with him again. As they head back, and then in the bar, someone comes up to Kanyon and wants to meet him and tells him that his journey and his trek becoming an openly gay wrestler allowed him to realize who he was and that he came out as gay. And James Mitchell was kind of taken aback as the inspiration that Kanyon had become. And as they head back to the hotel, Kanyon tells Mitchell he is sore because he threw himself in front of a car in an attempt to kill himself. That leads to a shouting match between the two before they hug and they let everything go. Kanyon drove James Mitchell to the airport, and they spent the entire time laughing about the good old days. Mitchell broke down and told his wife he thinks Chris is going to do it this time. Tough. That was tough.
Yeah.
Tough to hear, and you could still see that it affects James when he was telling that story. DDP saw Chris for the last time, and he knew he wasn't going to be here much longer. Mitchell tried to call him, and he wouldn't answer the phone for weeks. April 2nd, 2010, he was found dead in his childhood home in Queens. He died from an overdose of antidepressants at 40 years old, and it's classified as a suicide. They all talk about how they felt, and some were at a loss, and others felt relief as he was no longer in pain. Luke Haas says, breaks down a bit as he knew his friend wasn't suffering anymore, though it sucked to lose him. James Mitchell breaks down and says he owes everything to him, and he loved the guy. Luke loves and misses him as well. Jericho says it was rare to have a guy that nobody talks bad about, and Chris is one of those guys. Mitchell calls Chris a tortured soul, and he wishes he knew more of what he could have done to help him. He tells people out there to do what they have to do to get people help and save them. The Young Bucks credit Chris as a pioneer, and he would be a hero if he was still here today. DDP says it is a different world world, as they have, gay wrestlers, trans wrestlers, and it's really more open, and it's kind of different,
Acceptable.
acceptable than it was back then. The Young Bucks even talk about like how Matt says that Chris used to tell him, "I wish I was coming up, and I wish I was your age and could come up in the business now." And he never really understood that until until he got older and got to the destination. He said you got to appreciate the journey more than the destination, because sometimes the destination doesn't live up to that. They show a highlight reel of Kanyon's moves, and then guys doing the same moves. The Young Bucks said they learned years later what Kanyon always meant, and he was absolutely right. And then we end things off with James Mitchell says he is clear to tell these stories because he and Kanyon would talk about it, and he told them, "Shoot, Papa, shoot." Mitchell he said he wished he had a Ouija board to talk to him again, and he would hug his ghost if he could. And he said that Kanyon was said, "You missed me, brother." So that was a nice little ending, a nice little close to what was definitely a sad story about a person that left us way too early. So that is all for the Double Life of Chris Kanyon episode for Dark Side of the Ring. So Krssi, any final thoughts on everything that we learned and heard in this episode?
No, I think you've pointed everything. I love the ending. I loved how he closed it and said he wanted the Ouija board to hug his ghost, but he wouldn't be able to hug him because he would. And he said he would miss. So that was like a little laugh because he was getting sad at one point, and then that was like the joke that kind of like made him feel a little bit better. And even like all of the guys that spoke about him, and like Chris Jericho said, not everyone is going to be telling the same lie. Everyone is saying the same thing. No one said anything bad about him. Everyone had to had their story of him, having his episodes, but all of them all loved him and wanted to see him be great and do better, and feel better about himself and, about his situation. And I'm just happy that, all of them were there for him when he told them that he was gay, and no one turned their back on him. And they was like, well, we love you. Like, why would okay. And that's one thing I don't understand, especially when it comes to men. If you are gay and then there's another guy, they're not looking at you. They have a type. Now you're not it. So you just relax. Like, not all men are attracted to the same man. Like they have their preferences, and they just need their friends, and just be in their corner. And I'm happy that all those guys were there for him when he was alive.
Yes, indeed. We got a couple of comments here that we can feature. Ty Williams saying Matt and Nick Jackson are Christians, but they don't hate gay people. He also says, now I see why Matt was very protective of Kenny Omega. He sees Kenny Omega as Chris Kanyon. He doesn't want to see a repeat of another wrestler kill himself over his homosexuality. That might be a good point. That might be a good take there. Connor Smith saying, didn't Kanyon trade David Flair? Yes, he did help train David Flair when he was in WCW, which is kind of ironic with Chris Kanyon and the Ric Flair part of this story.
He's Jose Loyal. See what I'm saying?
Ninja Mortis saying, Kanyon, homie saying the Fed wouldn't shit on somebody who they spent money on rehabbing just to send a message is a choice. I don't know how he believes it. I think because he was with management, that's why he has that type of thinking and whatnot. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I kind of understand where his perspective is at. Ty Williams saying, I cried at the end of this episode. I don't blame you at all. Brady Allen Corley saying, people shouldn't be judged by sexual orientation, race. It's wrong. I used to be a judgmental person, and I changed my way of thinking. So that's great, honestly.
Yes.
I love how honest people are getting in the live chat here, and I love that Dark Side of the Ring opens up these type of conversations within the wrestling community.
Yes.
Connor Smith saying, read James Mitchell's 2010 blog post about Chris, heart-wrenching, and actually was with Kenny Bolin earlier today doing the WWE Extreme Rules 2021 preview on Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel, and he says that James Mitchell kind of talked about a lot of the stories and Kanyon coming out to him over on his channel. So great bit if you want to go over and watch that, because Kenny Bolin actually had Chris Kanyon at his home and known him personally. So it's a nice little touch there if you want to go check that out after the stream is done. Frantic World saying the ending of the episode was tough to watch. And yeah, that's definitely an understatement for sure. And Ty Williams saying this episode is a learning lesson on being there for each other. Definitely. And that's why we always said, we said it when Daphne passed, we said it when we lose so many people from the wrestling community, that we are a community here, whether it's the wrestling community, whether it's the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. Try my best to be, keep my DMs open on Twitter. That's why we give all our social media, because we are, we're always going to be there for each other. You might not have people in your family or friends that you feel like they're there for you, but the True Hill Heat community, we really want to make it like a community, like a family, so you always have someone to reach out to, and definitely being there for each other. Check on the people that you know and love, because sometimes that's all they really need. Krssi, we're going to close things off, and we're going to do our MVP, our LVP, and out of 10, what we thought about the double life of Chris Kanyon. Let's start off with the LVP of this episode. Krssi?
John Cena.
I am going to go. He escaped it last week because Tommy Dreamer was just so bad in defending him, but not this week. Ric Flair is the LVP of this episode.
I'm not mad at either one. They both deserve it. Go ahead, friend. Sorry.
LVP for sure, because like even Connor Smith said, he helped train your son, and then that's what you got to say to him when he needs a friend, when he needs some words of encouragement. Awful Ric Flair, awful. Miss Krssi Love, your MVP of this episode. I think it's unanimous.
Go ahead and say it, friend.
James Mitchell. Father James Mitchell, absolutely.
Why wearing that crazy suit, his whole attire, the stories he had, everything is why he is the MVP of this story.
Absolutely. Father James Mitchell, his stories added a lot. Added a lot. The Sinister Minister, whatever type of name you want to give him. He was great during this episode. His stories added a lot to knowing about the struggle that went on with Kanyon, holding the burden of being gay, him being the only friend that knew the secret for such a long time and kept the secret and didn't reveal it to anyone, despite all the trials and tribulations that they had with each other. It really shows how great of a friend that he really was to him. So yes, James Mitchell, I've met him before. He is great in person. So I really appreciated his contributions here. And out of 10, what do you give this episode of Dark Side of the Ring, Miss Krssi Love?
8.
8 out of 10. I'm gonna go 7 out of 10. The reason I'm going a little bit lower is because
Raven.
Yes, no Raven. I'm also gonna go because the timeline of all this story was a little bit off. Like they would go into the future, then back, and then it felt like it felt like a little bit like the NWO timeline was a little bit shaky there, and there was just a lot of things that was off in the editing and the story of this. But I mean, other than that, this was a really strong episode, a very sad episode. And like I said, it gave a very clear message to check on those that you love. So let's cover a couple of more comments before we sign things off. Connor Smith says, I've lost total respect for the WWE and I won't watch it anymore. I can't believe he sent them a cry for help and they ignored it. If you can send Scott Hall for rehab 15 times, you could have helped. I mean, you kind of understand the WWE perspective when they brought up the WrestleMania 20 incident where he kind of, I mean, despite, I love to, get on the train of, WWE is bad and some of the things they do are bad, but you kind of sometimes have to understand their perspective. And I do kind of understand why they were like, they wanted to separate things and why Stephanie even said she had to go to legal about it because of that incident. at WrestleMania 20. It's because of the way they told the story. The timeline was off, but the WrestleMania 20 incident happened before he sent her the letter. So
yeah,
I kind of understand their perspective there. Connor saying also, Kanyon said to him, some birds aren't meant to be caged. Their feathers are just too bright. And when they fly away, the part of you that shows it was a sin to lock them up does rejoice. Great quote
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Great quote there. We also got Nick Jackson saying, I'm real thankful for y'all. True Hill Heat is honestly something that helps me get through the tough days. Oh, we
Oh,
appreciate that. That's
thanks.
very kind words there, sir. Very
Yeah.
kind words. We appreciate that for sure. Brady Allen Corley saying, what's LVP? LVP is least valuable player. The person that came off the worst, whether it's a part of the story, whether it's the talking heads. I think if we did it on the talking heads, although he did have that personal connection growing up with him in Queens, the one line of not believing, WWE would bring someone back to bury them. Raphael may be, if we talking about the talking heads, who is the least valuable player. He didn't add too much to the story. He just added a different perspective. But yeah, he would be my LVP as far as the talking heads. But overall, I think Ric Flair came off the worst, so I would give him the LVP. Nick Jackson says co-LVPs to the referee and the producers for not contacting Raven.
That's true too.
Yes, that is a true one. Connor Smith saying MVP James Mitchell, LVP Stephanie McMahon, Ric Flair, John Cena, Howard Stern, Undertaker. I could go on.
We could go on. That's the God honest truth. Like,
oh man, that's tough. Ty
and
Williams
Ric Flair
saying
was a zero.
it's a zero. So yeah, that's why he earned that LVP. And he says MVP the Young Bucks and James Mitchell. Yes,
Definitely.
Young Bucks were very good during this this documentary, this episode here as well. And he gives it an 8.5 out of 10.
Nice.
And that is all. Thank you so much. Oh, we got Romeo one more comment saying how you give LVP to Stephanie McMahon on her birthday. Happy birthday, Stephanie.
Wow. Okay.
Of course, Romeo had to come in with that comment. But Krssi, that brings us to a close on another episode of Dark Side of the Ring, the double life of Chris Kanyon. Thank you so much for joining me on this review and covering it all, giving
Of
our
course.
perspective, our analysis. Please let the people know where they can find you on social media or the True Hill Heat YouTube channel.
Well, you can find me with my good brother. We do Dark Side of the Ring every week. I am also here with my good brother every Saturday live for our True Hill Heat episode. So join us. I hope you guys will be available tomorrow to watch us. We're going to have a big, big show. Other than that, you can follow me on IG, Twitter, and on Facebook. It's Krssi Love 1 or _ and Krssi Love and Crystal Lynch.
Absolutely. Krssi always with the great stuff on social media and right here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. And you can follow me on the Twitter machine at True Hill SP3. You can follow the gang on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at True Hill Heat. And there is a bunch of great content to enjoy in the tonight as well as the next couple of days.
Yes.
Later tonight, going live at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going live with Friday Night Warriors number 6 as Romeo and the gang will do a live watch along of WWE SmackDown. You got Shinsuke Nakamura versus Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship. You got Happy Time with Happy Corbin on SmackDown as well. The Go Home Show.
Jesus Christ.
The Go Home Show, 2 Extreme Rules, and then AEW Rampage Grand Slam from Queens, New York, Arthur Ashe Stadium. CM Punk's first televised matchup in 7 years against Powerhouse Hobbs. You got Adam Cole and the Young Bucks versus Christian Cage and Jurassic Express. You got Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer in a lights out match. So there is a lot to enjoy there. Join us for 4-hour watch along on Friday Night Warriors tonight. And then join us back here 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:05 p.m. UK for True Hill Heat 144, as we are joined by one of our biggest guests yet, four-time Emmy Award winner, the best wrestling interviewer in the land, one of the elite faces in wrestling media. Chris Van Vliet is going to join us live. We're going to talk about his journey, his career to becoming one of the major names in wrestling media, but we're also going to discuss the 5-star classic between Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson at AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, as well as preview and predictions for Extreme Rules with Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor. And speaking of Extreme Rules, we have our live watch along for the pay-per-view on Sunday, hosted by Romeo. Drunk Guy JJ will be there as well. He won't be there live, but he will be there live on the YouTube channel to do the live watch along with Romeo. Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor, Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair versus Alexa Bliss, and then we're going to review it all segment by segment, match by match on Monday, our Extreme Rules pay-per-view roundtable review. So it's a great time to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. Remember to throw a thumbs up on this video, share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. And yes, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified, and join us live tomorrow, 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time, as we're going to have huge news on True Hill Heat content. So from Miss Krssi Love, it is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. This has been our Dark Side of the Ring, the double life of Chris Kanyon review. Until next Friday for our next Dark Side of the Ring review on Onita and FMW. We are signing off until next time.